All right. Have you ever stopped and wondered if there's like a divine blueprint for salvation? Well, in just a few powerful verses, the book of Romans lays out this incredible sequence, a plan from God that has had people talking for centuries. Today, we're going to unlock that blueprint. This right here, this single passage is the heart of the whole thing. It's often called the golden chain of redemption. 5 links that seem totally unbreakable, stretching all the way from God's mind right down to our reality. The language might feel a little heavy, I get it, but the idea behind it is absolutely world-changing. So how in the world does this divine process actually unfold? So here's how we're going to break this all down. We're going to start with the blueprint itself. Then we'll dive into each link in the chain, one by one. We're talking God's initial foreknowledge all the way to the final state of being glorified. We'll even dig into 2 totally different ideas about what that final step really means. But you're going to want to stick around because the most surprising part might just be the answer to why this whole plan even exists. Okay, so what are these 5 links? Well, the source is pretty clear. These aren't just random ideas. They're a connected, flowing process. And boom. Here they are: foreknew, predestined, called, justified, and glorified. You can see the progression right there. It's like it moves from this divine knowledge to a plan, to an invitation, then a kind of legal verdict, and finally, a total transformation. Let's see how they all hook together. So, the chain kicks off with its 2 most, let's say, controversial links: foreknowledge and predestination. And right away, we run smack into one of theology's biggest debates. If God already knows what we're going to do we really have free will? And this is where the source makes a really crucial distinction. It argues that foreknowledge isn't God deciding your fate. It's more like Him seeing the choice your own free will is going to make. The key idea here is that God's knowledge doesn't cancel out your choice. It just recognizes it before it happens. And yeah, this is the big one, right? This is the question that trips almost everybody up. I mean, if God already knows the final score, is our choice just an illusion? The source argues no, it isn't. And the reason why comes down to one critical difference. This slide just lays it out perfectly. Over on the left, you've got determinism, where God is basically a puppet master. But the source completely rejects that. It argues for the view on the right, that God's plan is actually a response to the free choice He sees us making, not the cause of it. Now, with that idea in mind, predestination suddenly takes on a whole new meaning, doesn't it? It's not God forcing a path on you. It's Him setting up a plan for those He already knew would freely choose Him. So in this framework, it's actually our free choice that acts as the catalyst for God's divine plan. Okay, so once God foresees a choice and predestines a plan, what's next? Well, the chain continues with called and justified. And to really get our heads around this, the source uses this powerful analogy that pretty much everyone knows, the story of the Exodus. Yeah, think way back to the Israelites and Egypt. This whole story, according to the source, is kind of like a physical mirror of this spiritual process. It's the perfect illustration of why being invited on the journey is not the same thing as being chosen to finish it. Okay, so look at how this journey breaks down. The entire nation of Israel was called out of slavery in Egypt. They were all temporarily justified or saved by the lamb's blood on their doors. But then came the real test, out in the wilderness. And the vast majority, they failed. In the end, only 2 people from that entire generation, Joshua and Caleb, actually made it into the promised land. They are the model for the predestined. Just 2. Let that sink in. That number says it all, doesn't it? It's such a stark picture of the difference between being called and being chosen. And it shows that in this view, predestination is tied to the free will choice to stick it out, to endure, all the way to the end. So what exactly is justification then? Well, just like with the Israelites, it's not about being saved by all your own good deeds. It's about being declared righteous because you have faith in a sacrifice. It's pure grace. But, as that Exodus story warns us, receiving that grace is just the beginning of the journey, not the end of it. So this brings us to the final and, maybe the most mysterious link in the whole chain: glorification. This is the ultimate goal, the end game of the entire process. But what does it actually mean? But what does glorified mean? And did you notice that the original verse used the past tense, glorified is? Is this something that happens the second we believe? Or is it some kind of future event? The source actually explores 2 very different ways to look at this. So which one is it?
Is glorification a thing that's already happened, a present reality, or is it a future promise? Understanding both sides is key because honestly, each one totally changes how you see the entire chain.
Okay, let's compare these. View 1 says glorification happens now. It's the moment you receive the Holy Spirit when you first believe. That would explain the past tense, sure, but it also implies it could be lost. View 2, which the source tends to lean toward, says glorification is the future resurrection. It's a permanent, final state for those who make it to the end. So, why the past tense then? The idea is to show it's so certain, so guaranteed, it's as good as done.
So we've walked the entire chain, but this leaves this huge question just kind of hanging in the air. If it all comes down to our free choice, why have this whole elaborate, predestined plan at all? Why even announce it?
Yeah, exactly. If it all just unfolds naturally because of free will, what's the point of predestination? Why would God declare the end from the beginning? Well, the source proposes a really fascinating and honestly unexpected answer.
Here it is, the core idea. This entire plan, this whole golden chain, it might not just be for us. It could be a public declaration meant for a heavenly audience, a demonstration for the angels.
This slide shows exactly how it might work. Just imagine God announcing the plan to the angels, maybe even naming the specific people, and their instruction is just, watch these ones. The angels then get a front row seat to their entire lives, the struggles, the temptations, and crucially, the free choice to keep going. This becomes undeniable proof for the entire heavenly court that God's plan wasn't random or arbitrary, but was perfectly just. The takeaway here is kind of staggering when you think about it. It means our lives, our struggles, our choices, they have cosmic significance. They aren't just for us. They're a living testament, a proof of concept, showing God's justice to the heavens.
And that leaves us with one final thing to think about. If our whole journey is a demonstration for the heavens, what does that say about the purpose of our own free will? It suggests that our choices aren't just for our own salvation, but they're part of a much, much grander story, a divine explainer for all of creation.